We're not going to put up with this stuff. And we are going to win. You know, one of the great journalists actually called me. Happens to be liberal, but that's okay. Every once in a while, that's okay. Do we agree? Who cares? Who cares? You know, we're going to make America great for everybody. Not for conservative, not for Republican, not for Democrat, not for liberal. We're going to make it great for everybody, folks. We're going to make it great. But he called me and he said, you know, you've done something that nobody else has ever done. I said, what's that? He said, what you have achieved in the world of politics never been done before. And honestly, Bill O'Reilly, who's a very tough guy and a very smart guy, said it's one of the greatest, it is the greatest, actually, political phenomena that he's ever seen. Not bad, right? I mean, you know. And others. Britt Hume said it, and he hates me. This guy hates me. The level of hatred from some of these people is incredible. And a lot of it's because they were wrong. You know, they were wrong. They said he'll never run. He's never going to run. You know, they get paid a lot of money to be prognosticators, right? Donald Trump will never run. The next day I announce I'm running. Then they say, well, Donald Trump has decided to run, but he will never do very well because we have all of these great candidates. So I decide to run, and I start off, you know, start off like everyone else. You start off with nothing. And then the first week I went to 8. He said, well, he has reached the ceiling. He'll always be able to get 8, but he has reached the ceiling. Next week, the polls come out. He's at 14. Well, you know, there's surprising, but 14 is his absolute ceiling. There is nothing that he could do to go higher than 14. Then I go to 20. Then I go to 28, 32, 38, 48, 51. Then I go to 55. Then in New York, I go to 62. Then in California, I go to 78%. And you know what? Something that nobody talks about because they don't want to. If I was a Democrat, they'd talk about it plenty. In the history of the Republican Party, it's pretty long, right? You know, Abe Lincoln, we're talking about a long time. In the history of the Republican Party, I got the most votes. You got the most votes, not me. I'm the messenger. I'm a good messenger, you have to say that, right? Doing a good job. I'm just the messenger. But in the history of the Republican Party, Dwight D. Eisenhower, great guy. You know, he won the Second World War, although I think other people had something to do with it, in all fairness. But he was given a lot of credit for winning the Second World War. He runs for president. I beat him. Richard Nixon, we beat Richard Nixon. Ronald Reagan, who we love, we beat Ronald Reagan. We beat Bush, we beat everybody. In the history of the Republican Party, we all together, the movement, got the most votes of anybody in the history of the primaries. But I don't mean by like we beat them out, oh, we edged them. We edged them by like a couple of votes. No. By millions of votes. By millions of votes. By millions and millions of votes. You know, it's amazing. And the Republican Party, I'm not going to take full credit for it, but I'll take 99.9. The Republican Party got more votes and had the biggest increase, about 70% increase over what it was 4 years ago when we had that loser Mitt Romney representing us. 70% more people. And the people at the polls, you know, a lot of people, they work the polls for years, for 40 years. I've seen them, men, women, they're at the polls. And I'll remember in South Carolina and New Hampshire. New Hampshire, I love, you know, I mean, these are states where I did really well early. And it was an amazing thing, the feeling I have. And by the way, I'm going to make a pretty big speech on Monday, so stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. I'm going to do it in New Hampshire because that was the home of my first victory. I went to New Hampshire. Bush was favored to win. You know, he's from that whole thing. No, low energy, folks, low energy. And he's not living up to his obligation because when he signed the pledge, it said, I will do this, meaning I will endorse whoever it is. It was me, and he says, I won't do it. So what he's doing is, you know, honestly, it's very dishonorable. But Bush was favored to win, except that I won in a landslide. And we won in Massachusetts. Now, it's nice that Tom Brady likes me. That helps, right? We got almost 50% of the vote. Think of it. We got almost 50% of the vote with like 8 or 9 candidates in there. Now, you know, I never got credit for that because when these pundits who hate me, some of them are okay, but most of them hate me. Most of them hate me. But when these pundits go out, right, they go out and they say, Donald Trump only got 34% of the vote. They don't say there were 15 candidates. Actually getting 34% of the vote with 15 people in the race is better than when I got 78% in California. And just remember this. With California, they had a lot of names on the board. You know, it's not like it's totally over. They could vote for anybody they want because all the names, or many of the names are on. So when you get all of these numbers, but all the time I had to listen to this because I think it's the largest field in the history of elections, the 17 or 18 people that started. So I was competing against all of these governors and senators and very capable people like Dr. Ben Carson, who's a great guy, by the way. Great guy. And a very capable guy, but I was competing against Ben. And he endorsed me right after the whole deal. And Chris Christie endorsed me, and he's been great. We've got great endorsements. We have great. By the way, we have so many great. Dana White endorsed me, you know, from UFC. And, I mean, we have I'll tell you what, I would put Bobby Knight endorsed me, Bobby Knight, and Lou Holtz, and Digger, and so many people. By the way, the Bobby Knight endorsement had to be one of the great endorsements ever. So I win New York in the primaries. And they said, oh, he's going to do great in Pennsylvania. So they're sort of conceding Pennsylvania, a place that we love, right? I went to school in Pennsylvania. I went to Penn. I went to the Wharton School of Finance, maybe the hardest school to get into in the country, the Wharton School of Finance. And I was very good, really good. But I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and I spent years in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia's not Pittsburgh, right? I know that. But we love Philadelphia, too. Brotherly love. And we do love Pennsylvania, and that's where it all comes together, right? But so I've been in this state, and I know this state very well. And this is a great, great state. So I win Pennsylvania big, big. And then I win Connecticut big. In fact, they just did a poll in Connecticut. Republicans are not supposed to even waste their time going to Connecticut. I love Connecticut. A poll just came in where I'm a few points behind, and people are saying that's incredible. A poll just came down in Pennsylvania, by the way, where we're leading. A poll just came out in Ohio where we're leading. A poll just came out in the great state of Florida. We're leading by 2 points, and we haven't even started campaigning yet. You know why we're leading? Because people are sick and tired of the stupidity that's going on with our country. They're tired of it. They're tired of it. We're going to have a great country, and we're going to have a country that's unified. We're going to have a country. I thought one thing about Obama. I thought that Obama would be a cheerleader for the country. That's the one thing. I never thought he was going to be the president in terms of greatness. I thought he'd be a great unifier, a great cheerleader for the country. He is a great divider. The country has practically never been so divided as it is now. And we're going to bring everybody together, folks. White, black, we're going to bring everybody together. We're bringing our country together. The richer, the poorer, everybody. And you know, one of the reasons we're going to bring it together, it's the old story. It's called jobs. Because I'm not going to let other countries take our jobs, like Carrier, where they move their factory to Mexico, they fire everybody. And Ford, where they take tremendous numbers of people out of our system and they build these massive plants in Mexico. And so many other countries, you know, it's funny, so many of these companies, they're run and owned by friends of mine. So now I'm getting calls. They say, Don, please don't mention my company. Please don't mention my company. And I'm running out of companies now. I know so many of these guys. But you know, when people are friends, you don't mention their companies, right? Should I or not? Should I? Yeah. I won't. No, you got to be loyal. So, but by the way, there's no shortage, I can tell you. The list is a mile long of companies that are leaving. look at this area. In 10 years, you've lost 45, 50% of your manufacturing jobs. Who ever heard of a thing like that? I mean, first of all, NAFTA is like one of the worst things ever to happen to our country from an economic standpoint. And who signed NAFTA? Bill Clinton. And a lot of people said, oh, we had pretty good economic times with Clinton. Well, we didn't have good times, if you remember. There were a lot of bad times. First of all, he was impeached. There was a big impeachment mess. It was a mess, just like it will be with Hillary. With Hillary, it'll be worse. But remember this. A thing called impeachment. Remember the turmoil and the holy mackerel. But just think, we did okay. But the people that followed him, because of that horrible thing he signed, got killed because NAFTA stripped the jobs out of this country. I toured New York. I toured Connecticut. I toured Pennsylvania. I toured all over the place. I was in Maryland. I look at places that were vibrant 20 years ago with incredible factories, and those factories, you could buy them for $1. You can buy them for nothing. And actually, from a real estate standpoint, you should do it. Because if I win, those factories are going to be put back to work again. Believe me. Believe me. Although they're in pretty bad shape, they'll probably just rip them down, but we're going to have our jobs back, okay? Not such a bad investment. I just saw this recently. It's in one of the papers that cashing in. Illegal immigrants get $1,261 more welfare than American families. They get think of it. This is illegals. $5,692 versus $4,431. So they get more money than American families get. Where are we? What are we doing? What are we doing? Now, what are we doing? You know, they're all screaming, build a wall. It's not just a wall, but we are going to build a wall. You know, recently the president of Mexico from a few years ago, Vicente Fox, he was on television. Well, you know what happened? And he threw around the F-bomb. And he said, we will not finance or give the money to build the wall. But he said it differently, because he said, we will not pay for that F-bomb wall. The F-bomb. He used the F-bomb on live television on CNN. I said, whoa, he's going to be, it's going to be so bad tomorrow. Wait till you see, nobody wrote about it. Can you imagine if I used the F-bomb? Would that be? That would be the electric chair, right? They'd give Trump the electric chair. Okay, if I used the F-bomb. So he said, we will not, under any circumstance. This is the way he said. He was going crazy, sitting in a chair. I thought he was going to have, look, I won't say it. But he was going crazy. But we will not pay for that F-bomb wall. And I said, whoa, is he in trouble? But then I said to myself, hey, I'm happy. Because 2 years ago he says, we will never allow that wall to be built. So now at least he knows it's going to be built. And the reason, this is very important. The reason that they're going to pay for it, we're going to have a great relationship with Mexico, much better than we have now. We don't have a good relationship. When Sergeant Tamburisi, remember Sergeant Tamburisi? He made a wrong turn. He had a lot of difficulties. When Sergeant Tamburisi was there, they kept him in the worst prison. They treated him horribly. They should have let him go. He had difficulties. They should have let him go. And they didn't let him go. And I don't even know if anybody called. I'll tell you what, I would have been on the phone the first night. I would have called the president of Mexico. I said, let him go. Let him go. I don't think Obama ever called. The guy was in there for, a long time. And I helped him out. And Greta helped him out, I have to say. Greta Van Susteren helped him out. And I helped him out. But relationship is you call him up, you say, do me a favor, the guy made a mistake, let him out. Because the people were going crazy. And how about this? Bergdahl, right? Sergeant Bergdahl. Sergeant Bergdahl. Here's the way we deal, folks. We get Bergdahl, a total traitor, where probably 5 or 6 people were killed trying to find him. Definitely 5, probably 6 killed going out trying to get him back. So we get Bergdahl, and they get 5 of their worst killers that they've been after and trying to get out of prison for 9 years. So we get 1, they get 5. Those 5 now, I saw just the other night, they're back in the field trying to kill everybody, including us. Folks, we got to be so much tougher and so much smarter. I call him the 5-for-1 president. And how about the deal with Iran? We get nothing. We gave them $150 billion. And it was only after that, remember they took our sailors, our 10 sailors, and they would have kept them forever, except they wanted the money. It was due the following day, right? So stupid they're not. So they humiliated us. They humiliated the sailors. Then they let them go. And I remember after a few days, and Kerry said, we would like to thank Iran. They got $150 billion. All right? Who the hell would have kept them? So they would have kept them, believe me. And that should have never happened. We had hostages. We should never have negotiated while those hostages were held. We should have said, gone into the room, say, release your hostages. If you don't release the hostages, the deal's out. Get up, walk out. They're great negotiators, the Iranians. The Persians are great negotiators, always have been. You know, you're not supposed to generalize. I'll generalize, okay? They've always been great negotiators. And we've got a guy who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Secretary Kerry, President Obama. President Obama is incompetent, okay? He's incompetent. Remember that. He's incompetent. Now, yeah, we have a president who's it just doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. So here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. And what should have happened then? You get up and you walk the art of the deal. I mean, you know, give me a break. We never walked once. You know, did you ever see that negotiation? We would like to have the following, the Americans. No. They go, no. Oh, okay, we'll agree with you. Everything was no, no, no. Okay, we'll take it. We'll take it. Never walked, never left. They should have said, we have to have our prisoners back. Say, look, folks, they don't help you. Good for us. Our people are angry. Good thing for us. You got to release them. They will say no. They're going to say no. We're not going to do it. And then you say, sorry, we can't negotiate. You leave the room. You get on the plane. You double up the sanctions. By the time you land in Washington, you can turn around the plane. The prisoners or hostages will be released. 100%. Like 100%. You know. I hate to say the art of the deal because that's so simple. Who would even write about it, right? Who would even have to write about it? So, and then you start negotiating. And the other thing, I negotiate 2 points. And then nuclear is very important. I love negotiating but you have to get a good deal. Not a deal that's going to destroy Israel, which this deal will do. This deal is so destructive for Israel and our country that how they could have allowed it to happen is incredible, okay? How they could have allowed it to happen. So, I want 2 things. I want our prisoners back before we start. They would have been back 3 years ago. That was the longest negotiation. You know, usually a negotiation that takes that long is no good. That's number one. But, you know, we sat there just for years just giving them everything they wanted. How about this? They were dancing all over Iran at the deal before it was signed. Who the hell signs a deal when the whole country is saying how stupid you are getting this deal before you signed it? But they wanted to sign the deal. Horrible for our allies, horrible for Israel, very bad for us. We've created a real power. The second thing I wouldn't have given them, I would have never given them the $150 billion back. Would have never. And I would have done it. You know, my father was a great guy. He was a builder in Brooklyn and Queens. And he said to me, I learned a lot. And I'd sit at his knee, and I learned by osmosis. He didn't really teach me. I just learned. You know, he'd be on the phone with a plumber or with a sheetrock guy or with a pipe fitter. And he'll say, no, you got a lower price. Can't do it, got to lower. You know, I grew up with that. It was like in your brain. And now we're doing the old post office. We're way below budget, way ahead of schedule. Everybody wanted it in Washington, D.C. The old post office in Pennsylvania Avenue, right near the White House. I always said, if I don't make it, folks, I'm still going to be living in Washington, D.C., okay? And it's going to be a great building. It's going to be, I think we're going to make it, right? What, don't you think? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you. I really think we are going to make it. And I think we're going to make it big league. And we're going to turn our country around. By the way, the old post office. So the old post office right now is almost 2 years ahead of schedule. And I told my people, don't say 2 years, because it's not a believable number. It's almost 2 years. But I said it's not, but just say it's a year ahead of schedule. Because 2 years, it almost sounds too much. But so I'll say it, we're 2 years, but we're a year ahead of schedule. and we're under budget, and the quality is much higher. I think it's going to be one of the great hotels of the world. It's going to be Trump International Hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to open in September, but I think we're going to have probably our opening ceremony toward the end of October. I don't want to have it too early. But think of this. We're under budget and ahead of schedule. Do you ever hear that from our government, right? You ever hear that? Never hear that from our government. So, a lot of things are happening. The run has been amazing. The crowds, the momentum, and the movement has been amazing. No matter where we go, we have 20,000, 25,000 people. In Mobile, Alabama, we had 35,000 people. We have by far the biggest crowds, far bigger than Bernie Sanders. And by the way, Bernie was second, I have to say, but it wasn't even close. But, you know, during this whole campaign, and I was saying a number of weeks ago, I think weeks ago, we had a crowd, 17,000, Bernie had 3 on the same night, different cities. So we had 17. And I had the folks at CNN, actually, and they were saying, this is so-and-so from CNN. I'm at a Donald Trump rally, and everything's good, And you got to see the spirit in the room. People are going crazy. They're standing ovation. There were seats, and nobody was sitting down. The people were going crazy, and you listen, it sounds like there's 200 people standing there, right? And that's the end, and now over to you. And then Bernie Sanders rally. So they didn't mention 17,000 people, right? Or 18,000, whatever it was. So a lot. Now they go to Bernie Sanders. We're at the Bernie Sanders rally. It's a massive crowd of 3. They have to have at least 3,000 people. It's unbelievable. Look at all the people. So I have 17,000 people, and it's like falling asleep for the reporters. He has 3,000 people, and they're talking about the 3,000 people. Let me tell you, folks, as Republicans, and the more conservative you get, the harder it gets, it is so unfair, the dishonesty of the media, the dishonesty of those people back there. It is so unfair. It is so unfair. But the beauty of it is that the people are really smart. They get it. I mean, they really understand what's going on. It's an incredible thing to see. They get it. That's why I love my protest. You know,